Shalom, shalom, it's the brother Kadash. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders. Peace, blessings, and honors to all the brothers in this truth. I can't play all of this, but she's pretty much going into, if you get the job, then supposedly the Bible tells you to get the job because that's loving your neighbor, which is not. Then she goes into trying to explain what a neighbor is, which is untrue, because if you read where it talks about love thy neighbor in our law, statutes, and commandments, right? Well, it was given to the Israelites, and the neighbors that was around was fellow Israelites. So your neighbor is your people, and there's so many scriptures that go against what she's trying to say, but they're just pulling out all the stops and using whatever they can to get you to take that job. So let's let this play, and then let's break it down a little bit. I can't play all of it, so I'm gonna have to mute a little bit of it.
Essence, the very essence of what the Bible tells us when it says, love thy neighbor. Right? Because what we know is, one can ask, well, who is one's neighbor? Is it the person?
Love thy neighbor literally basically means love thy people, thy kind.
Who lives to my left?
Because did the Lord say he hated Esau? Isn't that in the Bible? Don't the Lord say he hates Esau? Don't he say he hates the workers of iniquity, sinners?
Lives to my right, I know them, may borrow a cup of sugar, right? But what we know it means when we talk about love thy neighbor is that, yes, it may be the person next door, and it may be the man on the side of the road, and it may be a perfect stranger.
I have to leave it there because she gets to saying some things, But that I'm not afraid of, by the way, but that is get the video taken down. This is 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 20 says, "O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust." What's committed to our trust? The faith, this truth. Avoiding profane and vain babblings. This is a vain babbling. It's very vain because the things that she's saying is not true. She's not giving you context of love thy neighbor and what does that mean. When Moses came down with the commandments and he told the Israelites to love thy neighbor, was he talking about everybody on earth? No. An example of that is if you fast forward during the time of Joshua, when Joshua went back into the land, and the Israelites, were they loving the people that was there? No, they were going to war with a lot of them, and those people was asking to join them, and they were saying no. They said that they had to join them as servants. And then if you go during the time of Ezra, when they were building the temple, right? If I'm going down the line right, here, let me see. Yeah, during the time of Ezra, when the temple was being built, they asked, I'm trying to remember that precept, but they asked if they could build with the Israelites, and the Israelites told them no. So what does it really mean to love thy neighbor? But this is a vain babbling, It says in oppositions of science. This is an opposition of science. Rather than keeping the faith, and holding that's committed to thy trust, what they're really doing is oppositions of science, and that's where you get the jab from. Falsely so called, which they're falsely so called. Getting a jab is the scientists coming up with, mixing ingredients together. These ingredients could be unclean ingredients. You don't know what's in it. It's no different than a wizard. That's in our law. It's no different than a wizard giving you a magic potion. It's no different, So here, let's go into this. Let's pull a couple more precepts. This is a very obvious one right here. So if the world is doing that and they're trying to get the world to do it, you got to remember what was said in the scriptures, which is this, if I could get to it. This is 1 John chapter 2, verse 15. It says, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world." Right? So going back to what I was thinking of, first temple built during the time of King Solomon, because King David couldn't build it. He had spilled too much blood in the sight of the Lord, in the Lord's eyes. So King Solomon built it. You had various of kings, some wicked, some righteous. Hezekiah down to Zedekiah, wicked, and then they were taken out the land by the Babylonians, going to the Babylonian captivity for 40 years. Then you had, the Persian Medes rose up, and then you had the Greeks. You had the Persian and Medes, and then during the time of, who was that? Darius, after Cyrus, Darius. During those times, you had with Zerubbabel, the beginning of the second temple to be built during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah too. And then eventually that was destroyed really during the time of Yahushua when he got crucified. It was destroyed after that. But 70 AD when the Romans came in and destroyed everything too. Now, you got to not love the world. I just had to bring that up because I was going into it just to remember it the right way. Now, this is 1 John chapter 2. Verse 15, it says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. It says, if any man love the world, and the love of the Father is not in him. So this jab that they're coming out with, trying to choose my words correctly, is a thing of the world. It's a thing that you have to love, because what you're doing and what you're risking in order to get it, you're literally pricking your skin and putting something and having faith in it, something that you didn't see, something that you don't know the ingredients in, and you just having faith in it, rather than loving the Father and having faith in the Father that the Father will heal you and protect you. The Bible even goes as far as saying, look, don't worry about what clothes you're going to wear. Don't worry about what you're going to eat. Just have faith, and the Lord will add all these things to you, because the Gentiles seek after all those things, but the Lord will add these things into you. So how much more, some magic potion? Of course not. It says, verse 16, for all that is in the world is the lust of the flesh. And that's lust of the flesh. Because the only reason why you're getting it is because so you could go out into the world. It says, in the lust of the eyes and the pride of life. It's not of the Father, but it's of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. And he that does of the will of God abide forever. Because, let's be real, a lot of people that's going out there to get that, why are they doing it? They doing it so they could travel on airplanes, so they could vacation, so they could go back to work, so they could go to schooling, so they could go to public events. That's why they're doing it, so they could be a part of society. And that's the lust of this world. That's the lust of flesh, and that's not of the Father. So this completely cuts what she's trying to go into, and she had to bring up the Bible, because a lot of our people is religious, especially the people that they say haven't been getting it. The Native Americans, the Negroes, and the Hispanics are very religious people. Even if they're not in the truth, they're somewhere in some type of church. So now they're using that to attempt. And this is only the beginning. It's going to heat up and get a lot worse too. It's definitely going to heat up and get a lot worse. Here's another one. Let me see. Let me find it. I got to run the Exodus, but this is Jeremiah. Oh man, Salaki. This is Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1. It says, Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, and worketh his hand with the workmen, with the axe. That goes into the Christmas, but it's the same thing. Learn not the way of the heathens. So this is the way of the heathens. Anytime there's a pandemic, anytime something like this happen, a pestilence, they create a jab for you to go take, and everybody goes to take it. They did it with smallpox, whatever, chicken pox. They do it with the flu. They do it with anything that comes. This is the way of the heathens. This is what they do. They make a magic potion, then they get everybody to get it. Learn not the ways of the heathen. We supposed to follow the scriptures. Where's the example at in the scriptures where it's talking about everybody going to go get a jab? in order to protect themselves from the Lord's judgment, because that's really what it comes down to. Now, and it really comes down to behind the scenes them trying to complete their new world order, and they have to do it in phases and do different things like this, and they're trying to get you to fall for it, even if they got to use the Bible the same way that she just did. This is Exodus. It's so many scriptures, man. This is Exodus 23. Verse 2. It says, "Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil." This is evil, right? Because you're not trusting in the Lord. "Neither should thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrestle judgment." So you're not supposed to follow a multitude to do evil. Just because everybody's doing it, you're not supposed to do it, because that's loving the world. You're not supposed to love the world. You're supposed to put your trust in the Lord, your faith in the Lord, not some type of magic potion, which that's what a lot of people are going out there and doing. So she attempted to break it down and say, well, it means this because love your neighbor. That has nothing to do. That's just complete vain babblings. Like it said in 1 Timothy chapter 6. It's just complete vain. Because if that's what you're trying to make it to say, then go to the scripture where it talks about love thy neighbor and show me where they were all getting jabbed up, and that's the way that they were showing that they love their neighbor. No, loving your neighbor is keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. That's love thy neighbor, and there's a whole list of commandments to show you how to love your neighbor. And not one of them talks about going to go get some type of magic potion or a jab. Not one of them. It's do not steal, that's loving your neighbor. Do not kill. Do not, lust over your neighbor's things, no false dealings, even with our neighbors, with our Israelites, we're not supposed to, I forgot the term that the Bible used, but you're not supposed to tax them, put interest and stuff like that. These are all different ways how you love thy neighbor, and not one of them says go get a jab to show that you love your neighbor. So it's false and vain babblings by her way. But hopefully this has been edifying with that. I'm going to say salvation to the elect. Shalom. Don't get the mark of the beast when it comes.